we consider ourselves a trade organization, and we have 2,600 members across the US who work and specialize in supporting entrepreneurs. We think of ourselves as sort of the leading voice of micro businesses, and we aim to sort of serve as the advocate for all of the hard work that all of the business support organizations are doing, including yourselves. Next slide. So how do we do our work? AEO has a couple of different pillars aimed at addressing the multiple challenges that entrepreneurs face. On the one hand, we have a really strong research arm that aims to understand the challenges, what might be causing them, and provide some broader understanding for the community on what is affecting entrepreneurs across a spectrum of issues. We also have an advocacy arm that aims to push and promote policies that support the industry. Our innovation hub, which is a department that I work in, focuses on testing some new hypotheses and developing new products that help us change the way entrepreneurs are served and provide them with greater access to opportunities. Next slide. So how does the Innovation Hub work? All of our work is done through cohorts, and actually our panelists today are made up of one of our cohorts that focused on returning citizens specifically. Our understanding and sort of our model is that if we can sort of fuel the industry with insights that we've garnered either from our research arm or through what we're seeing happening in Congress, and then inform a test so that we can say, not only did our research indicate that this type of work can be powerful, but it also can, we can also prove that the work has merit, right? Because we've tested it through the pilots. Next slide. So let me tell you about what we've done with returning citizens. So we got involved in the returning citizen space initially in 2018 under this program that we launched called the Endeavor Ready program. It is part sort of our broader collection of initiatives and work that we're doing to just try to make entrepreneurship more accessible to individuals at large, but returning citizens specifically, just given the demographic and the impact that they can have. We have a broader portfolio of initiatives. In 2020, though, we launched this Endeavor Ready cohort, and our aim was to focus on testing a new solution to support CDFI specifically on a new underwriting approach to lending to returning citizens. And we did that in collaboration with R3 Score. And so you'll have an opportunity to hear from them as well today. So why does this work matter? Why did we even begin to get into the space of returning citizens? And the story there for us really is in the numbers. There's a powerful opportunity for all organizations, especially those that support small businesses, to do something to support this community. I pulled out some numbers that I thought were impactful for you to see. One in every three US adults has a criminal record. That's roughly 70 million people. And the expectation is that that number is going to grow to 100 million by 2030. Of those, 1.2 are entrepreneurs. That is roughly 4% of all US small businesses. And we have found that this is a meaningful number, right? This is a market that is available for you as a lender, but also entrepreneurs who are hungry for support, hungry for capital to be able to succeed with their business. Historically, this population also really has a challenge in accessing capital. And so we came to this pilot with the notion of, how do we make it easier? How do we make it easier for entrepreneurs to get the capital that they need to succeed with their business? And how do we make it easier for you, the lender, to provide to have the knowledge that you need to determine how to support these businesses? I want to flag that this cohort, I'm really thrilled to share, just in the time that we've been working together, has issued more than $152,000 in loans since we launched the program. And we're still evaluating new loans, new entrepreneurs for this program. So there is a meaningful opportunity here. Before I sort of switch it over to the panel, I thought numbers are always fun, but hearing a story of entrepreneurs can just give you additional color. And so one of our partners, BCL Lending, created a quick video of entrepreneurs that they have served. And I thought it'd be powerful to show you that. So I'll have that play now for you. Can everybody hear it? I'm having a hard time hearing it. Okay, it looks like we're not getting sound. Essentially, just for the sake of, let me see if I can share. Yep. For the sake of time, we will send the video out for everybody to view, but these were two entrepreneurs talking about their own business stories and how they were able to grow their business through sort of loans in this program. So apologies that did not work as intended. But I think you've heard enough from me, and I would love to take a moment to introduce the wonderful panelists that we have brought together for this conversation. Our panelists today are comprised of both lenders and an entrepreneur who has been served through this program. So I will let you unmute yourself and sort of provide a quick introduction. Please tell us about yourself and why you got involved in this work.
Hi, I'm assuming I'm next because there's my camera just showed up there. I am Bonnie Crockett. I'm the director of Baltimore Community Lending, small business division. And we got involved in this program because you mean this program itself or just about myself in general? Mabel.
Sorry, why your organization got involved with this work?
Okay. We make loans to entrepreneurs, startups, and emerging small businesses in Baltimore City, primarily to people who cannot get traditional funding, whether the main reason being collateral, that they don't have collateral, they don't have the years in business, and there's a lot of reasons why they might not qualify for traditional loans. Instead of requiring collateral, we mitigate risk by requiring our borrowers go through a small business training program. We believe that requiring training instead of requiring an entrepreneur own a home or other assets is not only a more equitable way of lending, but also just makes more sense as far as business success. So actually looking at the numbers in Baltimore City and for the entire state of Maryland, about 60% of the returning citizen population is in Baltimore. So there's a huge population here that is struggling to get jobs and struggling to get a foothold back in society. And it's exactly, this underserved population with low wealth and underserved disadvantaged neighborhoods is exactly the population we're trying to reach. So we were thrilled to be able to get involved with the R3 Score program because it gave us the tool, an extra tool that we needed that gives the loan committee confidence in making their decisions about making loans to returning citizens.
Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, I was trying to have the ladies go first, but thank you for that. It is so good to have everyone interested in our effort here. And so for those that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Mike Langley. I'm a racial equity advisor for DreamSpring, as well as the director of social impact and the Racial Equity Advancement Project for Greater Phoenix Leadership. And so one of the things that was of particular importance for us, this is part of really a pillar of a larger effort to embed equity in what I like to call conscious capitalism. And so, really the social and the economic imperative is clear. Citigroup actually recently released a study that found that structural barriers to the basics, such as housing, education, but also criminal justice and business investment actually cost the economy about 16 trillion, that's with a T, 16 trillion over a 20-year period. And so it was really important to make sure that we try to embed this equity as we move forward. So thank you.
Wonderful. Lauren, can I move on to you next?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody, assuming it's afternoon for most of us here. At this point, my name is Lauren Leonard. I am the CEO and president of R3 Score Technologies. We have known AEO and been in community with AEO for almost probably 7 or 8 years at this point, and have participated in a lot of their early work around understanding folks who live with records as an affinity group. And so when it came time for the Endeavor Ready pilot, we were kind of well-versed in the work that we were all kind of collectively hoping to do. As we create a product that can be used as an evaluation tool, we felt like it was a good fit for us. So excited to be here and excited to share more.
Wonderful. Chadna, I'll move it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shonda Sutton. I'm the manager of the Urban Upbound Federal Credit Union. That's just one of the programs that Urban Upbound uses to break cycles of poverty in New York City public housing and other low-income neighborhoods. When this initiative was brought to our organization, we thought it was a great opportunity for us to directly affect that population. Obviously, being in low-income neighborhoods, we would come across people, but this gave us the opportunity to intentionally reach out and interact with them directly. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us. I loved hearing about your commitment to this work and also the broader work that you're doing with underserved entrepreneurs. I would like to have you tell me a little bit more specifically about what you do with Returning Citizen and how this program sort of helped you further your work there. For anybody that wants to go first. Bonnie, I'll move it over to you.
Okay. Well, Baltimore Community Lending, as I said, we make loans to folks who can't get traditional loans anyway. We had made loans to returning citizens already, but the reason this program helped us was because our loan committee wasn't sure how to evaluate a returning citizen application. I mean, in many cases, returning citizens, they've had years of not being able to build up credit. So they typically, have a credit report that's far less than desirable. And we wanted to be able to serve this population. We do it now, but didn't really have the tools we had to feel like we knew what we were dealing with. And this program actually gives us a chance to look at their character, their consistency, their stability, their resilience, and gives us ways to evaluate their overall credit worthiness in addition to just a credit score. And we've had a program from the beginning that evaluates everything. We don't have a cutoff number for a credit score. We listen to your story. We work with you from the beginning to build out your business plan, develop your financials, understand what it takes to open your business in Maryland. So we really do a lot of hand-holding throughout the whole process. And this is more of the same, but it gave us a kind of information that enabled us to take something to the loan committee and say, you can count on this person. We believe this is someone that's going to succeed and pay us back. We have made 2 loans to returning citizens so far, and they are both just stellar borrowers. They're doing amazing work, and their businesses are thriving. So we're really excited about being able to participate in this, and we intend to keep using it moving forward and continue to do this kind of outreach in the neighborhood.
Bonnie, that sounds great. It's so exciting to hear that you've issued 2 loans, and I love hearing about your commitment to continue the work. Chadna, would you tell us a little bit about your work with this population and where this fits?
Again, we didn't directly affect them. I think it was indirectly just because of the general population that we serve in low income. But this initiative allowed us to target returning citizens directly. We issued 3 loans, but they were not business loans. Unfortunately, the 3 loans that we did, well, fortunately and unfortunately, because they wasn't business loans, it did allow those returning citizens to get their name on the credit score. You know, they didn't have any credit at all. So we did what we would call a credit building loan. And it allowed them to, you know, get on that credit board because they had no credit at all. So they couldn't come in looking to get a business loan, but we're gradually moving them, you know, towards that. And so they did the credit loan. I think 2 of them fully repaid. 1 is still in repayment, but Urban Upbound has other programs to help push along in that process. We have one program, it's called the Workers Cooperative and Small Business Initiative or Business Innovation. And they will help them with the steps as far as creating their business plan, getting the business documents they need in order to get that business started. And then for anyone who already has the business in place and they just want to take it to the next level, that program is there to assist them in that way as well. And so then they'll send them back to us when they're at that point of getting capital.
Fantastic. I think any loan makes a difference. So even though it wasn't a business loan, the fact that you are able to help entrepreneurs build credit does make them better candidates in the future. So congratulations also on that success. Mike, shifting over to you, same question. Would love to hear about your work with this population and sort of how this program fits in with that work.
Yeah, so one of the things about what we've done in the past is we've worked with formerly incarcerated returning citizens. However, I think this actually helped us to formalize it a bit more, to be really intentional about providing up to about $250,000 in capital. Also technical assistance for those returning citizens. And so one of the unique things about our organization is that we work across 19 states. And let me see if I can memorize those and recall those. It is Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Missouri, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, Washington State, and Wyoming. And so, so I think I got that right. But so one of the things is a lot of those states have also very high incarceration rates. And so I'm based in Arizona. And so not many people know that Phoenix is actually the 5th largest city in the country. The state itself has the 4th highest incarceration rate in the country. And so really, as I said, really being intentional about a restorative solution. I had the fortune to actually talk about this as an anti-recidivism tool with members of our state legislature as well. And so I think it allowed us to be, again, really intentional, really impactful with addressing these really disadvantaged communities, those people that have really had, the justice system really take a lot out of them, but also have been vulnerable to more predatory practices, right? When you talk about those individuals that are returning, in a lot of respects, they have limited access to the basics, whether it's housing or employment, as I mentioned before, but in a lot of ways, they are limited in their identity because they don't have access to credit. And so that's why I think it was really important for us to get involved in this work.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Jermaine, I know chatted, that's very impressive. Not only that you recited all the cities, but that you guys have that work. And I think it does feel, the connection feels very relevant given sort of the high rate of incarceration in those places. I think before turning it over to Lauren to learn a little bit more about the R3 score, I would love to hear from each of you, and I'll let you guys choose who wants to go first. Can you tell us about the traditional challenges that you and lenders like you have faced in lending to this population and why this program offered a solution? So I would like just to, I think it might resonate with all of the audience members that we have, sort of those traditional challenges that lenders face in lending to returning citizens. Any takers?
Sure, since I'm the one with the microphone with the sound on. I'll start. There were really two challenges that we've had lending to this population. And with one challenge, this program has helped a lot. And the other challenge is we're still working on. And the one that in the way that it's helped is something that I've actually already, mentioned before, is that the loan committees just needed a way to evaluate this. We handhold, we work with everyone on a one-to-one basis. We listen to their whole story, but we're meeting with these people, on a daily basis. We get to know them. We get a very strong sense of, their character and their reliability and everything else, but the loan committee doesn't. They meet once a month. They're bankers for the most part who are used to making decisions based on numbers alone. And while it's one thing to tell them a compelling story, they're still bankers, they're still looking at the numbers, and they felt they needed a better tool for evaluation, that us just gushing over somebody's story was really not enough for that. So by having this, sort of set of questions, a report back and things that were specifically evaluated for each person in a way that they could, have confidence in, has enabled them to go forward and say yes, and not get hung up on somebody's credit score or lack of experience or some other factor that might be simply a result of the fact that they've been incarcerated. The second challenge is one that we're still working on, and I think everybody here is having the same challenge, and that is reaching the population that we can help. When people have been told no over and over and over again, they stop asking, so they don't trust lenders for one thing, and in many cases for a very good reason. How many times do they go through the application process just to be told no? Or made promises that never come true, when as a result, they might use their own personal credit, which only puts them in a worse position, or worse yet, they go online to some of these predatory lenders who will lend to anyone. We actually refinanced a loan. It was not to a returning citizen, but to someone who had gone online and gotten a loan for $120,000, believing they were paying a 10% interest. But with the way it was calculated and the way it was compounded, it turned out they were paying 42% interest on that loan. I mean, you never get out from under that. By refinancing that loan, and they walked out the door with the same amount of money as they had, same amount of debt as they had when they walked in, they saved $15,000 a month just in payments alone. So, but someone that's been told no by every bank, they feel like that's the only place that they can turn. And it's anyone can be easily fooled by some of these online predatory lenders. And yet they feel like it's the only place they can go. So we have to gain their trust, but we also have to just reach them to begin with, and not just reach returning citizens, but returning citizens who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. And that has been a challenge and continues to be a challenge. We've come up with ways to deal with that, but there's no magic answer to that. And that's certainly one challenge that we're happy to hear suggestions about.
Thank you, Bonnie. I think I want to sort of address your two-part answer with some supportive panelists here. I think on your first point of the challenge for lenders being sort of that lack of unbiased information to give their underwriting team, I would love to bring in Lauren to tell us a little bit more about the R3 score. I want to sort of keep in everybody's mind that I want to come back to your second point about lack of trust and bring in Dustin at that point to discuss a little bit more on that. But let's start sort of with the data, with the raw numbers. Lauren, would be great to hear a little bit from you about just the R3 score overall and how how this model you've developed helps solve that first problem that Bonnie mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So R3 Score is actually the outgrowth of it's actually the second company. I am a two-time co-founder of organizations in this space. Our first organization is a nonprofit called Mission Launch that has been in existence for 10 years. We worked in the criminal justice arena and really trying to look at innovative strategies and solutions to help people get on their feet. What we discovered for a lot of people was they were becoming entrepreneurs out of necessity. So necessity entrepreneurship, because they could not find access to work. So you shared that 1 in 3 people have an arrest or conviction record. There's 50,000 known collateral consequences for having a record, and over 40% of them deal with workforce. So we're talking about access to jobs, professional licensing, access to education. So having a record makes it very difficult to earn a living wage. So we had, on one hand, folks who were willing to be entrepreneurs, who also didn't have the relationships for the capital. And then a very interesting thing started happening. We started being introduced to the CDFI space. So for the last 7 or 8 years, actually, we've worked with CDFIs who have said, we're willing to make loans, we just don't know how to evaluate them. And that actually became the genesis of R3 Score, which is a more holistic criminal background check that also can be used as an alternative credit score. The model that we have since developed begins with a 5 to 10 minute intake interview. It starts with a Fair Credit Reporting Act compliant criminal background check. If we have customers that request a credit score, we are able to pull that data. We, however, do not, unless we are requested. We don't want to give a person a hard credit score hit, especially because most of our customers actually have already run the credit score. But we're able to take the 2 key pieces of data, the background check and the interview, to be able to then crunch it down to 2 numbers. We produce a 0 to 10 score, which is the criminal history index, meaning 0 would indicate a person who has no FCRA compliant, Fair Credit Reporting Act compliant criminal justice information to share. In this case, it may be something that's completely out of statutes of limitations. So there might have been a criminal record 30 years ago, but according to FCRA compliance, it's not able to be disclosed. Or there's just no criminal history at all. 10 would indicate a person who has the highest risk associated with the data returned, right? So, and the reason why that's important, I'll pause there for a second, is there is a deep bias against folks with records. Our brains, for most of us, only assumes jaywalking and marijuana or mass murder. However, there are tens of thousands, 50,000, hundreds of thousands of criminal justice codes that are this huge stack of gray. And so that's what we are in the business of selling, is the context, because the average person who has a record is going to fall somewhere in the like 1 to 4 category, right? And so the premise of that product and the job to be done of our basic score, which is a 0 to 10 score, is to help businesses understand that you can do business with folks with records. You just have to establish your own personal risk tolerance. So we want to help you calibrate your risk tolerance. So everything isn't a no or a yes, but that we can start to make stacks of maybe, because we believe that there are folks who deserve an opportunity to get a second or a third look. But without our product, it's either you have a record or you don't, and I know what to do with this, or I don't. And so we're just trying to keep the conversation going so that the opportunity can persist. We produce a second score, which is a 300 to 850 rating. The job to be done there is not to predict default. So I tell people all the time, my lawyers will not let me tell you that we are a consumer reporting agency, because we are not. Right now, what we tell everybody is to continue to go through your traditional underwriting process and view us, as Bonnie said, a partner in continuing the conversation. The 300 to 850 does not help you understand if a person is going, what their repayment history will be, because we don't bring that data in. Again, we only do the credit score if requested. But it helps you understand how that person is trending towards mainstream stability indicators against a more accurate peer group. And I know that was super jargony, so I'll explain what that means, which is our traditional risk models measure all of us actually against consumer profiles that no longer are representative of society at large. So most of us are measured against usually white, male, college educated, married consumer profiles. They're looking for most of us to have a car loan by a certain age, potentially to have moved in a home loan by a certain age. And when you do not trend that way as a consumer, there really is no way for the traditional risk model to know how to score you. So in one sense, you get dinged for not looking like that one profile. Especially for folks who have an arrest or conviction record, there's almost no way they're going to look exactly like that profile. So what we're trying to help the decision maker understand is, when compared against a more accurate peer group, this is how this person is trending towards stability. The reason why we have chosen stability is, as we continue to work with our customers, stability becomes the proxy for debt repayment and predictability, right? So we can't guarantee how they're going to perform in the loan, but what we can tell you is that this person is actually probably more stable than you might think, or they're trending towards stability, which is a good indication that with the capital and a business plan, they should be able to perform well in the loan. So I know that was a lot of information to take in at one time, but hopefully that was at least clean and clear. So the way that we can help Bonnie is the way that we can help, a lot of other CDFIs, and how we've helped those that have been in the pilot, which is, we want to help you in meeting your diversity, equity, and inclusion goals of saying yes to more people, but you need the context and you need additional information. And for a lot of your organizations, you need one more opportunity to say you checked one more box, right? Like, and the pressure comes off of the individual loan officer or the individual kind of community member or the board to say, well, we use this third party. And so that allows you to kind of persist.
That's perfect. Thank you, Lauren, so much for that really thorough explanation. I want to sort of take just one additional step. And when you think about, for the lenders that are on this call, how and where they can fit in the R3 score, what is your suggestion of where that comes in?
So the way that we recommend that you think about us is as a additional layer, and each process is a little bit different from what we can tell, but you definitely want to consider us your partner after you've had at least potentially the first touch point, meaning the application has already been submitted. You may or may not conduct an interview at that phase. We know that different people like, to bring this data in at a different spot. It also depends upon your process. There are some folks that have a way for people to self-identify as having an arrest or conviction record. There are other people who don't know this information until the interview process. So this is kind of one of those spots where, unless you have a very specific marketing channel, meaning, every person that walks through the door or that comes through this email already has a record because of the pipeline, right? Then in one sense, it all depends upon your process and where you find out that the person has a criminal record. Because we have the 0, we're able to tell you the person has no record. So we're happy to score anybody. But we know for most people, they're specifically trying to launch a program for this consumer profile type. Once you have your traditional application and our report, we believe you're then able to move it to, especially for additional CDFIs, the loan review committee. You want to use this product and this report that you receive as an opportunity to, in one sense, go to the review committee and say, here's their application, here's our interview notes, here's their credit score, and here's this additional report, right? So it becomes a whole package that allows you to help them understand how to frame the criminal justice data. Again, it's designed to get folks over the hurdle of, an instant no. And we're trying to just keep the conversation open, because I think from my understanding of how some of these reviews go, it opens up a dialogue, right? And that is actually what we're here to do, which is, with half of the country potentially going to have a record soon, we can't just flat out say no, right? And even from a business standpoint, you wouldn't be able to make as many loans as you would like to make if you don't figure out how to assess this demographic. So I think one of the other benefits of actually being a part of this work early, and this is what we say to our customers, is as being an early adopter to our product, you're getting a head start on your competitors, because you have 8 years before we all have to figure this out. You can start to work through the mechanics of your operations to understand, how do we continue to do our business, which is to provide capital and take into account half of the country that now needs to be reviewed differently.
I get that. And now it totally makes sense, right? What Bonnie said of the report gives you that extra layer of information. But there is, for lenders, you either need to have a specific pipeline of these kinds of entrepreneurs, or just run the credit for everybody, which brings back that second point Bonnie made of there is that trust gap. There is the lack of entrepreneurs seeking out, right, identifying themselves and seeking out lending, and voicing themselves as, hey, I'm from this audience, and I would like some funds. We do have one entrepreneur on the call who did access funds. And so I would love for Dustin just to give us a quick introduction on you, your background, what brought you to be an entrepreneur, sort of how you landed on this program.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Dustin Campo. I own a company called Justice Java. After really running into a lot of issues in the job market, employment discrimination from many different employers. I had 3 employers basically. When the third one happened was when I snapped and decided that I'm just going to have to start my own company. I would disclose my background upon, during the first interview so that I could get that out of the way and say, if this is going to be an issue, let's deal with it right now. And then I would get hired. I would work for a while. They would say, you've got a great work ethic. You show up on time. You do this. You're knowledgeable about that. And so we'd like to promote you. And they would do the promotion process, which involves HR, who would come in and say, wait a minute, not only can we not promote this guy should never have been working here in the first place. You have to fire him now. So that gets real old real quick. And I decided, okay, so people see this potential in me. I have the secret in the secret sauce that makes a person, successful. And if I'm not going to be able to get opportunities out here in the job market, I'm going to have to create my own opportunities. And if I'm going to create opportunities for myself, there's no reason that I can't rise the tide and lift all the ships. So I decided to start Justice Java with the intent of employing the formerly incarcerated, having face-to-face interactions with the public that would say, oh, that guy made me a cup of coffee. He's not a monster. He's not this awful person that should be ostracized from society. And those face-to-face interactions have yielded a lot of positive benefits. I have, as I expand my company, I haven't been able to take on, I've been able to hire one person, but I haven't been able to take on any more than that, even though I've had several people reaching out. So I've actually helped other felons find jobs in places where I was able to find some minimal success. But the support from people that are experiencing the exact same thing as me has been overwhelming. I wasn't able to get any type of traditional funding through banks or loans or anything like that. And starting a company is way more expensive than I ever thought it would be. So through DreamSpring, I was able to, partner with R3 Score, and then we were able to get funding to continue the business. And I actually was able to purchase a food trailer. We started off just doing a pop-up booth at farmers markets with a white awning that you would buy at Home Depot and, a couple of folding tables. And I found a kegerator on Craigslist for like $150. And I filled it with kegs, bought some nitrogen to make the nitro infused cold brew. And that's how I started. And then we got a generator. First, I was only able to work in places that had power there for me to plug my kegerator into. Then we got a generator. Then we got a truck. Then we got a food trailer. Then we got, so we've been able to continue building the business. And it would not have been possible without R3 Score. It would not have been possible without the partnerships of people in the community that are willing to say, okay, yes, you may have done something horrible in your past, something particularly egregious. However, nobody wants to be defined by the worst thing that they've ever done. So what are the other factors that make you who you are? And when you're able to look at that comprehensively and holistically, and then compare that to actual peers, people that really are in the same situation as you, and say that this person's got the it, that let's see what kind of opportunities they can build and they can create. We're actually in talks right now. It's very, very soon, but we are working towards opening up a community social services center that will start by providing transitional housing. It will have a laundromat with it so that we can get people in a house and cleaned up. We'd also like to expand that with a commercial kitchen space so that we can provide job training skills so that they can go work in any restaurant or start their own or whatever the case may be. So let's get you in a house, let's get you cleaned up, let's get you working. Here's some job training skills. Now go build a life. Take it from there. And we feel like that will give everybody what they need to be successful.
Justin, I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I also love what resonates with me with what you shared is the power of the loan, right? Not only to help you be a successful entrepreneur, but to allow you to work with others and look at all this additional expansion that you're talking about. And all of this was possible because somebody had the faith in you, somebody could trust you. I want to ask you sort of the question Bonnie asked at the beginning of this. One of the challenges that we hear obviously from lenders is how do we bridge the trust gap, right? There has been a lot, it goes both ways of an entrepreneur feeling like a lender will not have their best interest in mind, and of a lender maybe second guessing the audience. And I'm wondering from your perspective as an entrepreneur, what advice would you give not only to the panelists, but also to all of the other lenders that are on the call about how do they address that trust gap that an entrepreneur might feel of a lender? What would have made you feel more comfortable approaching lenders?
Well, if lenders had a process in place where they could look at your background and see that as a part of the whole, not the whole, that's a great starting point. Most lenders don't. Most lenders have a list of things, and if you are any of A through F on my list, we will not lend to you under any circumstances. They have these red flags, these deal breakers, and I don't know what they are. They often seem arbitrary to me. And the other thing to consider is even the best person with the best intentions that has no record, that wants to get out there and go start their own thing, can fail. Maybe they don't have the it for their secret sauce. Maybe they are, whatever. There are innumerable factors when it comes, 50% of restaurants fail, in the first 2 years? And it's something like 75 to 80% if you go out to 2 years or 5 years. People fail at business, but when you put money in people's hands, even if they're failing, they're spending. I am going to try to make progress. So I'm going to spend some money over here, and that stimulates the economy over here a little bit. And maybe that doesn't yield any results, but it helps. And it helps not just that person, it helps everybody. I think that's the biggest thing that we've learned from the stimulus packages that have been passed, is that money in people's hands doesn't stay in their hands. They spend it, they put it in somebody else's hand. So I think I think that for lenders, the message is give people money. What are they going to do with it? The worst thing they can do with it is sit on it. And I don't think that's going to be what's happening for people that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, whether it be racially or by their criminal background or whatever the cause of that disadvantage, the factors and, the contributing factors. They put money in people's hands. Nothing bad can happen.
Agreed. And I love your call out of, if you have the ability to be more vocal, right, as a lender to this population and say, I take this criminal history as just part of a whole picture, and let me explicitly call that out at the beginning, it might help start bridging that gap. So I really appreciate, because I think you're right, dollars in people's hands, right, do empower the economy. I'm mindful that we have 5 minutes left, and I want to give an opportunity for people on the call to unmute themselves and ask questions of our panelists. I know I've hugged all of the time, so I'd love for you to also be able to ask your own questions. I see some in the chat. I'm happy to read them, but if you would like to unmute yourself, I'll give you an opportunity now to do that.
I will quickly just say, for those, if you were already here, I think if you're in the waiting room, you probably didn't see it, but I dropped our website just for speed. I know we were getting close to time. So our website is r3score.com. I also have my email address. It's Lauren with an I at r3score.com. So if anyone has any questions, we run out of time, you can feel free to email me.
Yeah, I want to make mention of my situation of being incarcerated, and recently was released by President Barack Obama by a pardon. I was clemency, but I'm an entrepreneur out here today, and I'm an inventor as well. I have products in 34 Walmart stores. I invented some world first products, pet brushes that dispense shampoo from the brushes for pets. Yesterday, I was pre-approved by the American Pet Association to become a member in the pet industry. And now I can attend the Global Pet Expo in Orlando, Florida this March. So that was a big congratulations and a huge, hey, that was huge to get that news yesterday. But to talk about the obstacles that ex-felons face is huge. And this is definitely a great topic to talk about, because I was considering Shark Tank. Because, hey, I'm in Walmart at any day. They can contact me, expand me beyond. I make barber tools too. I'm a barber. I've done that while I was incarcerated, and I still do it to this day. So my inventing derived from the fact that I'm a barber, and the pet products and all these different things came from creativity. But I'm in 34 Walmart stores. I can be notified any given time to enter their modular system, which is 5,000 stores. I'll need help. Attending this Global Pet Expo, you can Google it yourself. I just got the membership pre-approval yesterday. The lady said it's a 99% chance they're gonna give me that. I'm in Baton Rouge. I'm not in Baltimore. I'm in Louisiana. We recently was affected by Ida, COVID, and all these things. So that takes a financial toll on you. Especially last year, I took a hit because my factory closed down. But I'm a guy who's not in Baltimore, but I definitely need help right now, especially attending this next Global Pet Expo, because it's strictly you're dealing with companies. It's a business-to-business expo from around the world. And if you go to chewy.com and see my products, and you Google the Benjamin brushes, I've been with them for 90 days. That was one of the criteria to get my membership. You have to be actively doing business with some major corporation. And I say that was God, the fact that they picked me up and gave my products a shot. Being an ex-felon and being all these things. But hey, I would like information to also can be a mentor for someone just got out and want to know, hey, how do you, actually I'm on the clock right now. That's why I clocked in late. I work for the Department of Health here in Louisiana. I'm a community health worker here out helping other community members, but I juggle my business as well. So I'm doing 2 or 3 different things. Yes, ma'am. So someone can reach me.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
We will do that. No, I was going to say thank you so much for sharing your story. I wanted to be mindful that I think we have one question in the chat that I wanted to give the panelists an opportunity to answer, but we will reach out to you with additional resources. And I love just you validating the work that is being done here and the power that it can have to entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
And invent help. One other thing, invent help for felons who want to know, hey, how do I take my idea and turn it into an invention? I can help out with that as well. My products have patents on it. So, hey, I could definitely can be a help when it comes to that. The process, the patent, the getting it done, the engineering. My products are done in overseas. So if anyone need that type of help, they definitely can reach out with to me as well when it comes to invent help.
Thank you, Benjamin. You're very generous to offer. Thank you. I know we had a question from Jacqueline, and I want to give her an opportunity to ask.
Yes. Hi, my name is Jacqueline Washington. I work for CDFI based out in California. And one of the things we do is provide lending to small business owners, minority-owned small business owners, and free business advising service. And we're looking to expand our services and products into to serve returning residents. And one of the questions that I actually have for Bunny, you mentioned something early on about holding hands and being like very daily with the process, but we're a small organization of 20 and we want to be as involved as possible. And we also provide, like I mentioned, free business advisory service. And I know, Mike, you have something along the lines in that. I want to know, how can we best serve these residents, whether it's through our technical assistance service or just in general, what does that hand-holding process also looks like?
Well, for us, on the small business side, and our small business division has 6 people in it, and our entire company has 16. So we're a small organization too, although we are growing rapidly. When it comes to handholding for the small businesses, we help them put together a business plan. We help them work out their financials and help them understand them, so they can discuss the financials. Some people come to us with financials an accountant provided, and it means nothing to them, so we help them with that. We help them understand what's required to start a business in Maryland. And this is all before they even start to apply for a loan. So they have the confidence when they're applying for the loan that they can speak to, the questions, and they understand their business. We also help them with the loan application itself. I mean, a lot of folks may be very good at what they do. They make great pizza or they design fabulous shoes, but they don't know how to write a business plan. They don't know how to read a profit and loss statement, and they may not even know what words like assets and liabilities mean. So we work with these folks through that process and then help them through the application process as well. And we also stay in touch with them after the loan is made. We meet with folks multiple times a year just to talk about how they're doing. It's not a surprise visit, it's just a meeting. And as a result, we've built a tremendous amount of trust with our borrowers. We've only been lending for 3 years in small business. And we've had no defaults yet. So no write-offs at all. And part of it is because of this hand-holding process and working so closely with folks, they feel obligated to, they want to pay us back, because they feel like it's a personal relationship and not, just them and some big giant bank. Our challenge is building that trust with someone who's not a borrower yet or not an applicant yet, out in the community. We've certainly figured out how to do it with the folks that we are working with, but we need to find better ways to do outreach in the community, to bring new folks in. And we do think probably the most effective way to do that is to work with other returning citizens, like Dustin, who can speak to, and Benjamin, who can actually speak to the experience themselves. They're certainly going to have more trust among that community than a banker or a lender would. And so we do try to work with our existing borrowers like Sequan in the commercial, in the video that we shared, to do outreach among the community and let other folks know that we're out there and we can help them and we're not predatory and we can be trusted. We spend many, many hours doing small business training, and it's all free. It is required, but it's free. And we meet folks where they are. Occasionally we get an application who really knows what they're doing, and that training might be an hour conversation. And then the next person we work with might work with us for months and months before they're ready to go. It really is up to them to set the pace. Did that answer your question, Jacqueline? You're on mute.
Yeah, it looks like she's looking for the unmute button. In the sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
Okay, I just was going to say the one thing go ahead. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
I was just going to say, would you all be open to including some of the folks, Dustin, and I've seen Benjamin speaking as well. Would any of you also be open to just having another conversation separately offline? Thank you. But yeah. Lauren.
Great.
No, you're fine. I think most of us put our contact information. I just was going to say that Dustin is a prime example of, especially for community-minded lenders, what happens in the end. What we know anecdotally, and he just kind of proves it, is that folks with records are more likely to hire other people with records. It is and the recommendations of your organizations are going to come from other people with records, right? So I think when you're looking at ways to, especially if your CDFI is geographically specific and focused, this is a strong economic driver, because the best way to get another job is to make sure that Dustin can keep hiring people. So if his point is, I can't hire fast enough, and we know that he's likely to hire, he's going to be one of the best employers in your community. Rather than having to convince another employer that they should take a chance on somebody, Dustin's going to be able to come and he's not going to have to be convinced. He's just going to be looking for the right person for the job.
Great, thank you. I love that call out, Lauren, that it is the biggest economic mobilizer, right? Not only are you helping the entrepreneur, but they'll help other people like them as well. I know we had a question from Trey Owens. The question says, how can we create a link with the program's worker already in the correctional facilities to catch those in need before they are released so that they always have support?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say from our side really quickly, Mike, is that this is where kind of, I think what Bonnie said, like the community partners, this is where all of us have to be very mindful of the things that we do really well. There are some folks that are really strong community organization providers for folks who are already incarcerated. So I think partnering with them, because getting behind prison and jail walls is its own process, right? And so I think being able to know who already goes there, how can you partner with them? That would be my advice. And then I think for the other CDFIs, if you do things like Shonda, where you do credit building, if there's any way for people to start to begin their credit building before they need the loan, that's usually always a better place to start.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think it's really important that you build those authentic relationships. And I'm grateful that I work for organizations that actually live those values. And so putting on these types of events are a really good start to that process. But I think that something that's really powerful is have these testimonials as Dustin has shared today, but also working with organizations that are focused on restorative justice in housing or employment. Another proactive approach, I think, is to connect with local probation officers. They have unions around the country. So that would be a really worthwhile investment, I think, to start planting that seed when you talk about those that are eventually going to be released, right? Because eventually 9 out of 10 prisoners will eventually return home, right? And so if they're unable to secure those basics, it'll end up costing billions, right? So if you extrapolate that out across sort of the rest of the U.S., so there'll be those economic losses, and people won't have that opportunity for a second chance. And so what we're doing, I think, we really can't afford not to do, right? As both a social and an economic imperative. So I'm happy to continue on sharing our insights with everyone on this call. I also dropped my information in the chat, so please reach out to us. And I think what we're doing matters, will continue to matter, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I think I'll wrap up with one question that we got sort of from two different people. It came from Takara and it came from Beverly. If they know an entrepreneur that has a criminal record and could benefit, where do they send them? How can they get started? I know one of the questions said, do they go directly to R3 Score? Should they speak directly to a lender? So I'm going to defer to each of you on your process on how you would suggest they work with you to serve those entrepreneurs.
Well, at Baltimore,
go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Nope, go Bonnie.
Okay. At Baltimore Community Lending, everybody starts with Melissa Badaker. She is on the call. She is mission control. I put her email in the chat, and then but I spelled it wrong. So I put it in the chat again, spelled correctly the second time, and she will get you started, and she'll have a conversation with you, find out sort of where you are in the process, and then get you started in the right direction based on that. So it is melissa.badaker, spelled like I did the second time, at bclending.org, or 410-319-0732.
Lauren.
And I would say for those that didn't see it in the chat, if you are in one of the 19 markets that DreamSpring serves, please have them reach out to me directly, either yourself or the returning citizen directly. Use my email, mlangley@dreamspring.org. Be happy to chat with them further.
And I would just like to clarify, we only make loans in Baltimore City because I've already had folks in chat asking about it that are outside.
Yeah, I think so. If there's folks who are looking for loans, you can have them contact us. We are in, of course, the pilot with AEO. We also have some customers that are outside of the pilot, and so in this case, geography matters. So happy to have a conversation with anybody in case there's a gap with where the entrepreneur is and where the pilot partners might be. We are happy to help.
I put my email in the chat as well. It's shonda@urbanupbound.org. We serve Queens, and we do touch people outside of the Queens, New York City area, but they would have to use one of our other programs at Urban Upbound.
Perfect. Well, a big thank you to our gracious panelists for participating, to Dustin and Benjamin for sharing your stories in this entrepreneurship journey, and for the 30 attendees that have stayed with us past the 12 minutes of this meeting. I hope the conversation was as fruitful and powerful as it was for me. Please do reach out to our panelists. They are a wealth of knowledge and are very eager and supportive to this cause. Their contact information is in the chat, but we will be sure to send a thank you note and include those emails as well so that you have them. Thank you again for participating, and we look forward to seeing you in our next panel. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everybody take care.
Have a good one.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.